Let's pick things up there with tonight's political insider. Joining me, Adam Wollner, correspondent for National Journal's Hotline 2016. All right, Adam, let's talk more about Ted Cruz. The latest Indiana poll from NBC, the Wall Street Journal, and Marist finds Donald Trump holds a 15% advantage there, besting Cruz 49 to 34%. But one day earlier, the Mike Downs Center for Indiana Politics gave Cruz a significant lead in Indiana. Who should we believe?
Yeah, as always, you know, polls can tell very different stories, but I think that the NBC Wall Street Journal poll appears to be a little more in line with some of the other polling we've seen in the state over the past few weeks. That poll has him up, Donald Trump up 15 points over Ted Cruz, and that's maybe a little bit on the high end, but if you take a look at some of the polling averages, looks like Trump has about a 10-point lead on Cruz going into the Indiana primary tomorrow, and that would put him in a pretty good position to get most, if not all, of the 57 delegates that are at stake in Indiana.
Ted Cruz says his campaign is doing everything it can to win in Indiana. The question is the Hoosier state make or break for his campaign?
I am in for the distance. As long as we have a viable path to victory, I am competing to the end.
That was an interesting statement, Adam, from a champion Ivy League debater and master of wordplay. As long as we have a viable path to victory. What do you make of that?
Yeah, he did appear to give himself a little bit of wiggle room there because Indiana really is turning into a make or break state for the Cruz campaign. He's had a bit of a rough stretch here over the past few weeks in the primaries that were held in the northeastern part of the country now. Indiana, that's generally a state, in the Midwest where Ted Cruz has done a little bit better. But if he isn't able to walk away with a victory tomorrow, which is, it looks like he's the underdog going into Indiana, despite the pact that he made with John Kasich, who's kind of been staying out of the state in hopes of clearing the way for Cruz so they can both stop Trump before the convention. But if Cruz isn't able to come out on top tomorrow in Indiana, it's going to be difficult to see a viable path forward for him.
Well, let's get to the numbers. Can Trump get to 1237?
Well, we'll have a much better idea of that after Indiana tomorrow. Right now, looking ahead all the way to the end of the primary calendar, Trump needs to win about 46% of the remaining delegates, and to date he's won a little over half, so that certainly is very doable. And if he's able to win Indiana, take a lot of the 57 delegates that are up for grabs there, he's going to be well on his way to securing that 1237 number. But we also probably won't know for sure until June 7th, which is the last day of the primary, and that's when California votes the big enchilada, as Ted Cruz has taken to calling it. In
the meantime, between now and then, all this drama. All right, the biggest headline on the left is fundraising. Hillary Clinton reeled in $26 million in April, surpassing Bernie Sanders. It was a steep decline compared to March when Sanders raised $46 million. What happened?
So I think, last month was maybe the month when some Bernie Sanders supporters started to face reality a little bit. Throughout the month of April, it became increasingly unlikely every week that Bernie Sanders was actually going to be able to capture the Democratic nomination. And it really is quite something that Bernie Sanders has been able to outraise Hillary Clinton every month so far, recently up until April. And that $26 million he brought in is still a pretty sizable figure, considering the most any Republican candidate has raised in a single month so far was Ted Cruz, $12.5 million. So he's still raising more than double what the Republican campaigns are raising.
Now, Adam, as the general election contest shapes up, I'm curious about the entertainment factor. Trump might be a polarizing figure, but he knows how to put on a show. Are Democrats worried about matching that type of star power?
I think the Democrats have to be a little worried at Trump's ability to really drive the media narrative and constantly be in the news cycle. But at the same time, I think Democrats also expect a lot of the controversies that have followed Donald Trump throughout the campaign to catch up with him a little bit more in a general election. He's not going to be able to get away with a lot of the same types of statements that he's made throughout the primary campaign as he will in the general when it's a one-on-one battle with Hillary Clinton. We still haven't seen Donald Trump in a one-on-one matchup really with anyone yet. So I think Democrats certainly that they have to think about how Hillary Clinton is going to compete with the star power that Donald Trump brings to the table, but they also see that there are a lot of negatives attached to that as well, especially when you've seen some of his comments about women that aren't going to fare very well in the general election when you're running against the former Secretary of State.
It's going to be a curious summer and fall. Adam Wollner, correspondent for National Journal's Hotline 2016. Thanks, Adam.
Thanks, Morris.